Hello everyone, and welcome again to the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage. You are looking at the Elna Lock Pro 5, otherwise known as the Elna LV5, and this is my mid-1980s serger. And I'm pulling out something I purchased. Now I made a bunch of purchases for this machine because, as I mentioned in the last video, it did not have everything intact, and I didn't know it. I was new to sergers. This might happen to you if you're new to vintage sewing machines. Now, the original telescoping thread stand for this serger was for 5, because remember, it holds, this thing uses up to 5 spools of thread, or combs of thread, if you will. And I purchased this. I got all these, well, I got most of these items at Sewing Parts Online. They're a pretty big website. And the shipping is more expensive than the actual items. The pricing of the items was not bad. But, you know, I count the little loops here, and I actually only count 4. 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Now, they say this is compatible with this serger. And I'm sure they do the best they can. You know, sometimes maybe mistakes are made. Now, I could not find a 5 hook or loop, a 5 thread guide version of this. This was the closest thing I could find. So I'm going to try it, and there may be what I hope is kind of sort of a workaround. I don't know yet. I don't know if I have an old thread guide that I can somehow, you know, rig up to make work. Sometimes you have to make things work when you don't have the exact part. So let's take a look at the base here, and you can see here's the telescoping piece, and this is what was broken off of the old one. I am impressed to notice that the top is brass, and this one came with another screw. I still have the original, but look, came with a washer. That's nice. Actually, it came with 2 washers. That's even more impressive. Woo! And then it has a brass base, just like the original. So I'm actually surprised to see that. I think I gave $29 for this. Don't quote me. I think that's right, but that's before shipping. Again, shipping is expensive. And I'm also noticing a little hole here. That's interesting. I'll have to figure out why there's a hole there. In any case, you can see the telescoping nature of this piece. And we'll have to figure out if this turns. I don't know if that top brass piece turns. I don't know why it would. Maybe not. Anyway, I'm going to take this, and I'm going to keep the extra screw. You never know if you'll need one. I'm going to hold on to it, but I'm going to use the extra, because I think I've only got 1 washer with the original, and that may be all it ever came with. This one has 2, and I'm probably just splitting really fine hairs here, but who knows? There's got to be some reason for why they did this. One of them looks like a bit of a crush or pressure use washer, so we will see. Okay, I've got 1 washer here, and that should be more than enough. This is the original, by the way. But who knows? Maybe I should maybe this will make, I'll just take the little washer, which is on here. And I think the little washer goes on. Oh, I get it. Okay. The original screw has a built-in washer. There's probably a name. If you guys know, let me know. There's a special kind of screw that has the head has this nice wide area, because I can't separate it, I don't think, unless it's just been on there a long time. But it looks like it's one piece. In any case, I am going to take this. This is the small washer piece, and I can always add that. Shouldn't hurt anything. I say should not, or maybe it will. I don't know. Maybe I should not try to rethink the Elna engineers from the 1980s, and I'll just leave that off. But it's nice to have. I appreciate that they sent that. because you might order it and maybe the screw was gone. Then you're really in a pickle if you're trying to get this back on. Okay, just for the purposes of installation, we're going to go ahead. We're going to go back with our screw, and this time, as I have mentioned that I always like to do, I'm going to take and put 1 drop of oil on the very tip, just the very end of the thread. You don't have to, you know, slobber it with oil all over the place. That's not really necessary. So just take, I mean, literally just 1 drop is all we need here. Okay, we're not boom. By the time I put this in, the threads will carry that oil and just dissipate it where we need it. And that's, again, we're not needing a ton of stuff here. More is not more. Less is more here. Okay, this is the original screw. This is the new telescoping thread stand, and it should be compatible, and it appears to be. Okay, so I'm going to take this, and I'm just going to hold it on the base here. And I'm just turning this. I'm actually just holding this, the bolter screw still with my hand and seeing if, there we go, and it's snug. Now, I literally did this by hand, okay? I don't need to be any more, you know, I'm not even going to tighten. I'm going to check the tightness here, and that's it, just snug. That's it. I don't need to make it nearly as tight as it was. And here you can see that it is telescoped up, I think, as high as it will go, right? It has, I think there's several stages of it, right? So there's three, get it far enough so you guys can see it. 1, this is the original height, it goes, and then a 3rd time, and that's the top, right? That's where it ends. Okay, so let's see how. Okay, I'm going to reinstall this back as soon as I find my screws here. So I'm gonna just get 1 going, and remember I'm sitting above the view line of this, so bear with me. And then I'll feed in the other. I'm just trying to get these started so that the piece doesn't come off. And let's see, I'll lower this down for you guys and let you see the exciting, I know, to watch me, like watching grass grow or paint dry, maybe. Well, not low enough. There we go. Okay, so the reason I'm showing you guys this is, notice I'm going to turn this and I'm going to balance. I'm going to snug a little bit on each side just to make sure I don't want to warp anything. Again, I'm probably being way overly cautious here. But when I start to feel it snug, okay, it just did on the right, come back on the left, do the same thing. That's it. I'm stopping right there. Okay, there's no need to torque this down super tight. Not needed at all. You don't want to do that. There we go. Now, let's come back up, and now we'll see how this works. Now, you've got 3, hold on. You've got 3 pins here, and 3, there's 3 thread guides. I'm calling them thread guides, big thread guides. And then there's, this one goes this way. Now, I have, something occurred to me. I'm wondering if you guys, let me know what you think about my theory here, okay? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lower this just for the purposes of being able to show you guys what I'm trying to illustrate, which is easier just because of the camera angle, okay? We can always pull the height back up. But maybe this is why it was considered compatible. You have a guide for this spool, one here, one here. When you look at the machine from the side, the original thread stand had, it had 3, one here, one here, one here. I think the way this is set up, I can use this for this spool, and then this one for here, and then also let it do double duty. I think it will. We will see. If not, I may look into my parts bin to find a spare thread guide, and then I have to figure out how I'm going to attach it to this. It's kind of, again, I'm having to sort of do a customized thing here. But before I even try that, the first thing I want to do is just see if I can make, sometimes a thread guide can do double duty without causing problems, or maybe not. We'll see. All right, now this here just fits on snug, okay? It doesn't screw. So let's pull up, and then up again. And now, if I pull back, let you guys take a look. I mean, there we go, right? It's fairly high up. And of course, it telescopes so that when you put your serger away, it is less vulnerable to breakage. But again, I can see, I mean, gosh, it's 30-something years old. I'm not surprised that it broke. Okay, what else did I get in the shipments and all the stuff that I bought? Let's take a look at that. Well, I wanted, first of all, I had to research needles. I've never had a serger before, other than the Mero industrial machines, and they take their own needles. But for home sergers, never had one. So how do you know? How do you know when to, or what needles to use? Some sergers use 15x1 home sewing needles, and that's fine. This serger may take them. However, sometimes people have found that if they go with a specific serger needle, that they get better results, okay? And it has to do with the way the needle is designed, and that's probably another video. Now, this needle standard is called EL by 705. EL stands for Elna, but you can use them in other machines. This was a standard that Elna, I think they developed this because people may have had issues with normal needles, right? And don't assume that this works in every serger. Home sergers have more variety in the needles they use than do other sewing machines for some reason. But anyway, these will work on the Elna and quite a few others, and they are designed specifically. They are different than home sewing needles because they have some structural differences that help with the feeding of thread, and that's my best layman's rationale for why these were developed. Now the one on the right, this is size 14. This is for wovens. Now this is the Oregon brand, by the way, so this is, you sometimes have to read their nomenclature can be different. This is the same size needle, but it says SUK. Why they use that, I don't know, but that's their ballpoint. Why would you want both? If you're going to sew with wovens, just like on the home sewing machines when I've talked to you guys about needles, you want to use a sharp, regular point needle. These are still serger needles, but the woven regular point refers to the very tip of the needle. Over here, you have ballpoint. You want ballpoint needles when you're sewing with knits, because regular sharp tip needles will very likely damage your knit fabric. They're not great for knits, and that's why they were developed. And this is also true with regular home sewing machines as well. Okay, so that's size 14. Well, then I decided that I wanted to buy some thread. Now, I have cones of thread of different types, cotton and poly, but I wanted to try something different. I wanted to find silk thread because I wanted to, I'm going to try using this serger on something made with all natural fibers. And in order to do that, I didn't want to use poly or nylon. Now, these are not giant cones. These are like, they're called mini cones. And they weren't that bad in price, $20-something, but it's, I've got 500 yards of filament silk. So that's pretty high quality silk if I got shipped what I asked for. And I have several here. Now, do you just put these on here like so? Well, you can, but you don't want to, because of the way thread feeds. These home sergers are a little more picky about how you set up your spools. With most sewing machines, you just take a spool of thread, you put it on your spool pin on your machine, wherever it is, and you may need a washer underneath, and you're good to go. That's it. Well, that's not the case with these. I'll show you what I bought. Your home sergers come with what are called cone supports. I think there's another name for these, to be honest. but I don't remember what it is. So there you go. If you guys know, some of you use Sergers and you know so much more than I do, please share that with me. I would love to hear your opinion. Anyway, your Serger should come with these when it's new. But like sewing machines and any other number of products that come with accessories, over the years things go missing, right? People move, they loan machines out, things get gone. Anyway, I could not get the original, so I got something that would be close, I believe. You have to know how big around your spool pin is, and hopefully, this was partly a guess, guys. These were not costly. And, okay, so these were advertised to fit, and they don't. That's not fair. That's not very nice. So I bought these. They don't fit. Now they may fit something else, someone else's machine, so I will hold on to these. I may need them for any future, but if I push down here, like I say, they might be snug, but I don't think they should be this tight. This is really hard. If I push down any harder, I'm going to cause, these are new, it's not like it's old brittle plastic, but I would probably, not probably, I'm pretty sure it would just split and crack, right? Even new plastic will crack, and that's unfortunate. So again, I bought it based on what I tell you know, these were not easy to find. All right, so we struck out there, but I'm happy about the thread stand though. That was nice. But I'm going to keep these. I'm not going to. These were not costly, and because I have other Sergers I'm thinking about future Sergers. Because of that, I'm willing to hold on to these. In fact, it would cost more to ship them back than I paid for them. Okay, this was advertised as compatible with this Serger. And I got these. These I did not get on eBay. These are spool caps. Now, why would you need a cap? Because you certainly don't when you're using a lot of the vintage sewing machines. You just put the thread on there and away you go. Now, let's talk about what the heck is that. What is a spool cap anyway? Some of you may know. Later, home sewing machines would use these. So the cap was designed to go on to the top of the pin. Why was that? Okay, so let's take one of these and we'll pretend that it has its little support base, although it does not at the moment. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to sort of illustrate, for lack of a better term, why would you need a spool cap in the first place? It's not for aesthetics. It's not because it makes it, has nothing to do with how it looks. It's how it functions. So when thread comes off a spool, remember it's coming off because it's wound on the spool and it comes up. Sometimes what can happen is, and this is true on any sewing machine, you can have issues where the thread, when it's coming around, I think I've shown this in troubleshooting before, you can actually have a thread jam caused when you've got a traditional home sewing machine, vintage machines, and that thread is on that spool really tight. This is especially true with new spools when you're putting a new one on your machine. So what happens is the thread comes off. Well, sergers can pull thread very quickly, really fast, and when they do, sometimes the thread will get tangled or to get caught on something, and if it does, it can really interfere and mess up your day. It can cause a thread break. It can cause problems with your thread tension, which you do not want on a serger. You don't want that on any sewing machine. And sergers are, they're the Rubik's Cube of sewing tension, and I'm about to learn that. So anyway, so back to the point of the cap. So you have the cap, right? And as the thread comes up, the purpose of the cap is to, and again, I've seen them placed in different ways. It looks like you would want it to go on this way. But anyway, what it does is it keeps, looks like a little mushroom. it keeps your thread from tangling or double backing on itself, so that when it comes off, it pulls the thread at this angle like this, okay? And it comes around, and that is supposed to help. Now this actually does fit. Thank you, Sewing Parts. You got your part right, so I will keep these. I will be able to use these. Now the other question remains, what about this here? What was the purpose, by the way, of this? The purpose of these was to hold the spool still so that when the thread comes off and feeds off the spool is not spinning like that. So I'm going to have to find some for this machine. Or if I cannot, can you guys guess what might be useful to do? These appear, so if we look at this, these appear, well, I say they appear, maybe they're not after all. These little supports come in different sizes. This may be too big of a size for this spool, right? Now these are mini spools, but you'll notice that it doesn't even fit in there. So that might not be a good fit for these. But these were not originally intended. This is not your standard spool for sergers, okay? So I'm going to go and see if I can. I'll get one of the larger cones that we normally think of when we think of sergers and see if it will fit on this base. Well, I have some old cones left over from when I had the industrial railroad machines. However, these cones are quite heavy, and so normally they didn't have anything to kind of hold them still. When I try to use this, it's too small for any of these actually. So I suspect either I've got the wrong sized cones or I have the wrong size cone support. Even this one, the narrow, what I thought was the narrow one, doesn't really fit. Okay, so at that point, what would be my next move here? I can also think about using a base that keeps this still. Now what could I do? Could I cut out some sort of silicone and make a washer for the base? Would that be enough? These don't weigh hardly anything. They're a lot lighter than these bigger cones. So I don't know. I don't know what the solution to that would be, other than if I press down with this, does that keep that still? Not really. Okay, now that's better. When I push this down, this actually covers this cone really well. Now this is just plastic here. I could put some sort of felt, right? I could create a large version of a home sewing machine washer. I could put, or some kind of silicone or rubber, some material that would sort of have a little squeegee-like grip to hold this still. But this seems to be quite useful. So now let's take a look and see. There's a little notch here on the top of these, but I don't, it's not a hole. So, okay, well, that's to be determined. So stay tuned on that, guys. So I'm glad I have these. Not sure about these. Again, I will hold on to those for future reference. And if any of you know where I could find the right size, maybe I need something smaller for these or larger for the big cones. But I couldn't find silk on cones that are that size. I could only find it on these. The only thing else I could get silk on was smaller, tiny little spools, and they just wouldn't last long. Remember, sergers use a lot more thread than a home sewing machine, so this is for a specific project. So I can always buy more. Actually, I could go shopping for new cones of thread that would fit these. I don't know. Anyway, you live and you learn. That is part of experimenting. Fortunately, they weren't, like I say, the materials themselves weren't that costly. I spent more on the shipping, I think, than I did than on all of these parts here. Let's see, what else did I manage to get? I also purchased another pack of needles. Now, this says EL, where are you? EL 705, but this is size 12. And I did this because I had heard that size 11 to 14 is usually the range for a lot of home sergers. But this is a finer thread. This is 100. This is called a 100 weight thread, I believe, and it's supposed to be finer than a lot of them, right? So I didn't want a giant needle because, you know, if your needle is too big for your thread, or vice versa, you can have problems. So there you go. We are making progress in the rejuvenation and the resuscitation of the Elna Pro. She's getting some of her missing parts back, and again, what I may do is try to, I really like how these fit. These were designed to fit right on here. These are exact specification for what I needed, and I'm thinking I'm going to, again, come up with another way to put all of these threads that I bought and then hold them down with the caps, and then, like I say, create something down here that will keep them from spinning, because I think that's going to be important. I don't want to throw my tension off. Tension is a very delicate and a specific, I shouldn't say delicate, it's a very important and specific specification for any sewing machine, Serger or otherwise. And if you go off of that specification, you can have problems. And any of you who are sewers, you already know this. And if you sew with a home serger, you really know it. So again, I'm going to great lengths to work to bring this old Ironside home serger from the 80s back to life, and hopefully we'll be getting there soon. Going to make sure not too much dust settles on it, and of course I'll be learning how to insert the needle, how to get access to the needle. It's again going to be a different experience than a home sewing machine, but I'm excited to learn. And I know those of you out there who are new to home sewing machines, many of you watch the channel and have told me that you're excited to be learning something new. And again, you take good precautions, and you just try it, and you don't have to be afraid, especially if you don't give a ton of money for something that needs work, or if you're not sure, you can buy something that you may not even know if it's going to work, but you can practice on it. As I mentioned before, these machines are very forgiving. I'm talking about vintage sewing machines in general. They're very forgiving, generally speaking, as long as you take, again, basic precautions. You go easy on things when they're stuck, and you're patient with them. Anyway, again, I have no idea if this machine will ever surge again. Don't know what its overall condition is, but I'm excited to find out. And this process will take longer because I'm not going into, this is totally new. As I mentioned to you guys, this is not like one of the vintage home sewing machines, otherwise known as, they're technically called lock stitch machines. And it's not like one of those that I've done many times, right? I know those machines quite well, and you still have to take the time to overhaul them. There is no quick and easy way to do it, but at least when you've done it before, there's a certain efficiency and time efficiency that you can bring to it. And if you do this often enough, you'll have the same experience, I have no doubt. But with sergers, I'm brand new, so it's kind of like those of you who've never taken on the restoration of a home sewing machine. Well, I've never done a serger, so again, I like having you guys watch me do this and kind of explore and figure things out as I go, because I think that's important to remind people it's okay. You don't have to like, oh, well, what if I don't fix it well? Well, if you don't, then you learn something, and that's kind of cool. So thanks for watching, folks, and thanks for hanging in there, and we'll see if the old Elna has life in it left yet. But these parts have taken a long time to come. Mail and shipping in general has been slow as molasses during the pandemic. But these parts came in, and again, this will sometimes happen to you. Do not be deterred. I'm not. I think one pack of these was like $5 plus a small amount of shipping. It was not that bad. And I will still hold on to these. I think they can be of use. Hopefully, now that I've got thread, I've got needles, hopefully we're not too far away from starting this up, but I still don't have a date yet. But as soon as I do, we will give it a try, and I will record it here for all of you guys to see. You will see if I succeed, and you will see if it flops. So you'll see it all. You'll see it all one way or the other. Thanks for watching, folks. Take care.